Yeah, Mummy.
Are you?
Hi, Sarah. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. So we're on Zoom because Facebook was not playing ball, but there we go. So for anyone who's watching new, welcome. My name's Emma and I support families to get ready for school. And I'm really excited this afternoon. We've been sort of thinking and planning this one for a while, and I'm really excited. I think it's going to really help lots of families. We're going to be talking about school meals, school dinners, school lunches, whatever you want to call them. And it's a common worry for families to be worried about. I've got my little one with me. Sorry, everybody. She might chat in a minute. I'll mute myself. To worry about that. So Sarah is going to come and help us with that. So Sarah, it's so nice to have you. Tell us a bit more about you and what you do, and how you can help us, and then I'll ask you some questions.
Thank you, Emma. Thanks for inviting me to join you. So I'm Sarah. My business is Kitchen Tidbits. I'm a meal planning and family mealtimes expert, and I work mostly with parents of young children to transform mealtimes from stressful to stress-free. So I specialise in working with parents of fussy eaters, and I work with them to support their children to develop a love of food. Yes, it is possible. For them to embrace and try a wider variety of foods, and to put the fun back into food, and for you to enjoy mealtimes as a family again. And I also work with people to teach them about meal planning as a way of saving time and energy in the kitchen, for reducing food waste, and just getting away from that age-old question of what's for dinner, and who hasn't had that question recently?
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Oh, Lottie's saying, look at my cake. We have also got strawberries. Amazing. There's a bit of a balance going on. Yeah, and I'm in your Facebook group, and it is brilliant. I love your like meal ideas, and so I've only been in a few months, but I found it really helpful. So it's fab. If anyone we'll make sure there's a link accompanying this for people to go and have a little look. Thank you. So yes, thank you. You're going to distract me the whole time, aren't you? We were just chatting before we started recording about, families who are in that starting school journey. And I know from friends who've been in that bit and people in our group who've asked us about, the meal times and the school lunches. And there's a common worry that, what if they don't like it? What will they do? There's lots of families who say, oh, my child's a fussy eater. I don't think they're going to have something they like. And obviously I've got my knowledge of what school dinners are normally like, which in my experience is usually they're brilliant and lovely. And usually there's a really wide variety of choice, so 3 or 4 choices a day, which is great. And they're free until children are in year 2, which is amazing in England to have that. So I think hopefully some of your tips, I'm sure some of your tips will really help, because ideally if your child can have school meals, and that's free, that's easy, you send them off to school, you know they're going to have a hot meal, and yeah, it's really good to do it. But the main thing that people worry about is, what if my child doesn't like it? What can I do to help to prepare them and get them ready? Because I guess it is different, even the way of doing things are differently. So spaghetti bolognese might be on the menu, but it will be a different version. It's not going to be how mum or granny or whoever makes it is different. So yeah, I guess the key thing that I cannot wait for you to share, because I think it'll be really useful for me as well, is what are your key tips around just helping children to be a little bit more open to new and different food.
So just to touch on that point about the spaghetti bolognese, it's spaghetti bolognese, but it's different, isn't it? So that's probably a really good starting point, actually, is to look at some of the foods that they're already eating and enjoying, but prepare them in different ways. So because they then can get used to the fact that it's not going to be at school like mummy makes it. So it can be as simple as maybe a carrot. So if they like carrots, and they only like having them steamed and cut into rings, start exploring other ways of preparing carrots. So offering them raw and cut into circles, or cut them into sticks on occasion. And start by offering those foods that they're already comfortable with in preparation for starting to explore new foods. And to help along the way there, serving them in a different way alongside the way that they're comfortable with. So some carrots cut into circles alongside some carrots cut into sticks.
That's
so
such a good,
familiar with the new.
Yeah, that's such a good starting point, because you're saying not a different food. Like, just start with really simple. I hadn't thought of it like that at all. Like, just because sometimes that can really throw children off. It is the same food, but to them, like you said, that's shaped differently. So that's a really helpful top tip.
And then to take it a step further, it's now a bit more possible to meet other people. So having lunch dates with friends who have also got children of the same age, maybe taking it in turns to prepare a meal. So they're getting used to foods being prepared by other people, because obviously at this age, they're not going to remember so much of having gone to friends' houses pre-lockdown. And not going to have seen family the same. So can you meet up with a friend and do lunch dates? Can you visit family and have, grandma cooking, for example, and get used to as much as possible now, those same meals that they enjoy, but prepared by someone else. So it is going to be different.
That's really good tips, I think. And you're right, isn't it? We are in a different position where we might have been a couple of years ago, where children maybe were more, we've got a couple of people joining, where people maybe were a bit more used to having different experiences. And that is mine, thank you. So yeah, is that those sorts of things would be really helpful. For people who are worried about the fussiness, so maybe they feel like their children have got quite reduced diets at the moment and quite a small amount of foods that they like, what would you say to reassure people and any just little, like, it's step by step, I guess, that's my thinking, is not like chuck something brand new at them, but what sort of reassuring tips have you got and little ideas to just help them feel a bit more confident about how it might go, because it's scary, the unknown is scary, isn't it? But
so the key is to start now supporting them to explore new foods. And I talk about exploring rather than trying foods, rather than eating foods, because there's a whole journey that children go on to get to the point where they're comfortable putting something in their mouths and eating it. So there's lots of things that we can do both away from the table and at the table to support them with that. So getting them involved in the kitchen, in growing foods, in helping you shop for foods. Now, I'm not saying that go on your weekly shop when there's that pressure to do it, but going shopping as an activity. So going to the shops together, having a look at what's there, talking about the different ingredients. You can also involve food in play and craft activities. The play kitchen is a brilliant place for building familiarity and exposure to different foods, and also teddy bears picnicking for role modeling. All of these things really help support children's comfort with new foods. And then it's about having new foods constantly on offer at the table as well, for them to see you eating and enjoying these foods. And it's about building exposure and familiarity so that they get to the point where they're then comfortable to start trying the foods. And that can be just touching and smelling, and then building up to maybe squashing it or licking it, which then leads on to them putting it in their mouth maybe and taking it straight back out, or putting it in the mouth, chewing it and spitting it out. All of these things are acceptable. Yeah, it's a bit disgusting, but it's all progress, and it's all things that we want to encourage. And eventually they'll start with a pea-sized amount, which goes in and they actually swallow it to building up. But it takes many, many, many occurrences of not only seeing the food, but also trying the food before they're comfortable eating it. So the more that we can do now to help them explore foods, the better. And to do it in a way that is non-pressured, which is why away from the table is a really good idea to introduce different foods, because there's no pressure there to eat. There's more pressure at the table to eat. And to be including a variety of foods throughout the day, so at breakfast and in snacks, as well as lunch and dinner, again, helps take the pressure off. And You know, if they miss out on some key nutrients at a mealtime, if it's on offer regularly, there's more opportunities for them to get bits that they've missed on other occasions.
Yeah, those are really good tips. I think it is so, from a parent's point of view, like Lily, my little girl, has definitely been through phases of being what I would say could be construed as quite fussy, and it's so easy to panic and just worry so much about, oh my goodness, they're not going to eat and they're just going to starve, and it's so easy to build it up into such a big thing, and then you put so much pressure on yourself as a parent, you're putting pressure on the child. And my personal experience of working in schools and being with children is that on the most part, most children do eat well at school because they're amongst their peers. Absolutely. There isn't often pressure, you know, staff members will be there to help them, but there isn't a pressure to make them eat. And often it's very a relaxed environment, and children are often more inclined to try and eat things because they can see their friends doing it. So mostly my experience is really positive of children with school dinners, and I try to reassure parents by saying that, you know, I know it feels like you won't be there and you won't be in charge and you won't know what's going on, but often they just get on with it and
exactly, it can work to your advantage. Yeah, and at home they push the boundaries so much more, don't they? So they will put that pressure on you in refusing food. It's a control thing. They want to be in control, but actually when they're among their peers, everybody's eating the same thing at the same time. So many children in any childcare setting do eat much better, and it is about staying calm and not allowing that stress to get on top of you, because if you're calm, there's more likely your child is going to be calm and relaxed around the dinner table as well, and that's going to play to your advantage because they're going to be more open to exploring if it's a calm environment. And it is easier said than done, not, you know, trying to be at peace with them not eating, or not eating as much as you consider them you'd like them to eat, but actually being calm is the best way that you can help them.
Yeah, definitely. And when they're at school, you won't be there with them. What do you, I'm sure you've had this sort of question lots, what do you say when families are worried that children just will not eat at school? Like, what's your kind of take on the bigger picture of their food throughout the day, and like, what if that happens? I'm just so worried they're literally not going to eat at school.
Yeah, so set them up with a really good breakfast with variety available at breakfast. Most schools, there's a mid-morning snack, and quite often fruit is offered at that point. But if you're worried that they won't eat those fruits on offer because they do swap and change them, then making sure that they've got a fruit snack in their bag for that time so that they can still join in and they're getting some food in. And again, quite often they'll have a mid-afternoon snack or ask you to take in fruit. So again, having some fruits that you know that they'll like, or even vegetables. You know, my son quite often will take in some carrots rather than have the fruit. So there is that opportunity for them to eat, even if they're not going to go for lunch. And then to meet them after school with a decent snack, or if you're just round the corner from school, having a snack ready as soon as they get home. But just remember, they're not going to starve by missing lunch. Yeah, they may be going to be tantrumy. Yes, they're going to be a bit miserable and they're going to be starving. But, you know, they aren't on the whole going to starve at all.
Yeah, I think, and it's so easy to panic and worry about them and think, oh my goodness, you know, what will they be like? But yes, I mean, even if your child eats well at school, they will still be starving hungry when you pick them up, like more hungry than you've ever seen them before. Like, that's just how it goes. Have you got any good after school tips
as well, though, isn't it? It's persevering with it. Don't just say because they didn't eat lunch on through the first 3 days that they're not going to eat it ongoing. You know, there's the whole environment that they need to get used to, the change in routine, and all of that can affect their eating as well. It's not just the food. So you do really need to persevere and give it time. And if you really are concerned, then talk to the school, because you could be taking in packed lunch on some days. Many schools will support you in that transition to school meals by allowing packed lunch on a couple of days, and still having the choice of school dinners on other days, so that you can balance a little bit. And
I think that's a really good point as well. And as a parent, I think, or carer for a child, if you feel like, my advice would be, if you feel like you want them to have school dinners, like, stick by that. There will be, like you said, there might be some days you think all those choices aren't something you like, and you'd like to provide a packed lunch, but yeah, stick with it and give them some time to do it. My little girl would like to take a packed lunch every, she just likes that. She likes that sort of food. She'd eat a cream cheese sandwich every day if I let her. But I stuck with it, and I basically told her I said, oh, it's not an option. School dinners are provided for you, and that's the decision that we've made as a family. So you are going to have those on occasion, like a special treat. She can have a packed lunch, but I was brave with it and just said, no, that's what we're doing. And actually, she has them 5 days a week. Her school, as many schools, are absolutely brilliant. Then the choices on offer are not usually wild, they're unlikely to turn up at school and be faced with sushi or something, most of them are very traditional dishes that obviously cooked in a different way, but she can choose jacket potato, there's pizzas, pasta dishes, there's sort of roast dinners, fish fingers on a Friday, things that children do like, and they often do hidden vegetables in there, so they're very careful about how they put it together and how healthy they are. But yeah, I was brave and went with it, and I'm glad I did, because she definitely pushed the boundaries and wanted me to say we have a packed lunch every day, but I thought, actually, I don't want to be doing that.
I mean, so the pressure to put a packed lunch together and meet their kind of packed lunch guidelines is really difficult, and it's a lot of work. And actually, there's been quite a lot of investigation into the cost of school meals versus packed lunches. And when you do get to the point in year 3 where you have to start paying for it, it's much more costly to put a packed lunch together than it is for them to have a hot meal at school. And having a hot meal at school means the pressure is off at dinner time as well. You can't, where children's appetite drops off throughout the day as well. Quite often, if they've had a hot meal at school, then a sandwich or just a bit of beans on toast or something in the evening, there's no need to feel guilty about those easy, quick options, and managing it that way.
Yeah, and that's brilliant, isn't it? Yeah. Now, this is definitely something that I just would love your ideas on, but I think lots of people will as well. So children are ridiculously hungry after school, but there's a balance between feeding them everything they want when you pick them up, and then them not eating dinner. Have you got any good, I realise we're not at the point necessarily where children are starting right now, but just thinking ahead to September, got any good snack ideas and rules? That's probably the wrong word, about kind of how you manage that well with the dinner bit as well.
So whenever talking about snacks, and whatever stage we're at, the snacks need to be kind of sustaining, and a good way to think about them is mini meals. So having a carbohydrate, a protein or dairy, a veg, and a fruit. So a rounded mini meal is more sustaining than offering just a piece of fruit, which means that you're not going to have that constant demand for snacks every 10 minutes. But also allowing then 1.5 hours to 2 hours between a snack and a meal, or a meal and a snack, to allow time for that food to be digested. So getting in from school and immediately having that well-balanced snack, and then leaving it 1.5 hours before dinner, and not giving in to those demands for more snacks if dinner's not ready. Really really hard. But you need to give them every opportunity then to be able to eat eat their dinner, and if you're not leaving enough time for the food to digest, then they're not gonna be eating. So think about your timings in that way, in terms of when you might serve your dinner. And as they get older and more used to the routine, actually that coming home starving drops off a bit. So now with my son, he's 8, and actually a piece of fruit and an oat cake with peanut butter is sufficient for him to see him through till dinner at 6. So you can start pushing dinner as well, later and later, the older they get and the more used to the routine that they get, so that family dinner time becomes more possible again, rather than feeling like you might want to stage meals. But yeah, so think about different things, and you can batch prepare some snacks. So there's things like savory muffins, or banana-based sugar-free muffins that you can make, and you can make a whole batch of them and have them in the freezer. You know, all sorts of snacks that can be prepared in advance to take the pressure off, and just have something there that you can grab.
Perfect. Thank you. These ideas are amazing. This is like 20 minutes of pure gold. Okay, I had a couple of questions before you go, but thank you so much. This has been so useful. So we had one question from somebody in the group a while ago about drinks. Yeah. So it's kind of a similar idea, but the question, sorry, Lottie checking, was that the child, you know, doesn't like water and only likes a squash or a juice, and schools will ask you to have water. Like most schools will say a drink needs to be water. So the ideal is that we're moving towards that, but obviously we want children to be hydrated. So have you got some ideas just to support families to move to, you know, the ideal is move towards water rather than just, okay, they're going to have, you know, being ahead, we've had lots of families that do just send squash in, and we would ask them to get to the point where they're having water, but it's, you know, that's probably not just going to be a quick fix of like squash one day, water the next. And again, you know, I was in situations where I wanted children to be hydrated, and if it meant that they were going to have nothing, then obviously it's a process rather than just being really strict and saying you absolutely can't do this. But if you're in that situation, what would you advise?
So it's not uncommon, one, for children to not drink, and two, for them to not like or enjoy water. So I've had this come up several times on my courses, and the dietitian that I work alongside, she recommends, if you have to have something in the drink, then go for juice over squash, because at least then there is some nutrition going in. There's absolutely zero with squash. So that might be a first step. Can you swap out the squash for the juice? The other thing to consider is the dilution of it. So, you know, you can gradually reduce how much juice or squash is going in with the water to make it weaker and weaker and weaker, and phase it out that way. And another thing that you can be doing, so rather than having the squash and the juice in the water, is to put citrus peel in instead, or different fruits. So orange peel. And it can be that, you know, you've had orange for snack, you've got the peel left over, and you can just drop a piece of peel in the water, and it flavors it without having any of the sugar or any of the, you know, without having to have the juice. And then things like grapes that are frozen, they can drop in as well if it's in or blueberries is another one, raspberries. You could put them in an ice cube and freeze them, and then, you know, it's not only a bit of fun that you've added to the water, but you've got a bit of flavour as well. But with schools, they ask you to take in usually a bottle to have in the classroom so that they can drink throughout the day, and rather than just at the meal times. So you can, if you haven't got to the point by starting school where you've got away from the juice and the squash, you can still drop in those fruits or those fruit peels into the water bottles. So, you know, so it doesn't they don't have to go cold turkey. And those citrus peels, once you have peeled an orange, if you don't need all of it, rather than putting it in the food waste bin, put it in a bag or a box in the freezer, and you can grab that at any time, and it's going to cool the water down as well, which is another way of helping them drink. Quite a lot of them prefer it cooler than it comes out the tap. So yeah, just a few tips there to start.
Amazing tips. I would not have thought of the juice being better than squash. I don't know why, but that's
from fresh fruit, and quite often it's got the pulp and stuff in. So with bits, when it's orange juice, and you know, there is a little bit of nutrition there.
Yeah, so good. Thank you. And I think you're right about that, what you said before as well, just about talking to the teacher and saying, you know, this is the current situation, they don't, but by explaining and saying we're working towards, you're showing that you're not just trying to sort of totally break the rules and sneak them in with squash. You're just saying that this is a situation, they just really don't like it, but these are the things we're trying. And I think from my experience, you know, staff are much more likely to be really understanding, and they absolutely want your children to be happy and healthy and drink and eat. And if they've got a good awareness of kind of why you've chosen to do those things, then they, in most cases, will be really supportive and help your children along with that.
And if it's a piece of fruit peel in the bottle, you know, no teacher's gonna take issue.
And I think that, I think it sounds really, like you said, really fun. The last question links to this, about how much would you, and do you advise like involving children in the process of this, of like talking to them about getting ready, and without worrying them and saying, you know, everything's going to be different? How much do you feel like that's really helpful to get children involved in the process of explaining that things are going to be different, and getting involved in food preparation and things like that?
Yeah, well, getting them involved in the kitchen is absolute key to getting to help them to feel like they're in control, and children need to feel like they're in control. We're controlling absolutely every aspect of their lives, so giving them small elements where they can take control. So in the example of the water, talking to them about why you're taking the squash or the juice away, and it's about it being healthy, and you're not going to have the squash and the juice taken away completely. It's just at school, this is what they expect of us, and why water is better for us than juice and squash, and part of our balanced diet. And you know, the weekends we could have juice with our breakfast, you know, those kind of things. So then, you know, what we're going to replace it with. I know you like the flavor in your juice, so you could choose to have lemon, orange, or lime. Which one would you like, or would you like all three? So that, you know, you're dictating what's going to happen, but they have some control then over what choice they make. So you are sharing those decisions, but we don't want to scare them about what's happening, and actually you don't even necessarily need to start talking to them about it being for school. It's just something we're going to do, and we're all going to try it together as a family, and you know, make it something that you're all doing rather than singling them out as well is really helpful.
Thank you. I've put the wrong shoes on Mrs. Potato Head.
Oh dear. Can I just add another really really good thing that you can be doing now, because we all know which schools our children are going to, and there's lots of information coming out about what happens, and also as well as what's on the website. But asking the school or having a look on the website for a sample menu can be really helpful, because you can then start talking to them about what sorts of foods are going to be on offer. You can start building some of those into your meal exploration, so adding some new meals into your meal plans to build up for September as to what might be coming and what sort of meals might be on offer. And it really does help with that transition, knowing what might come. And then as soon as September arrives, asking for a current menu so that you can continue that process and continue talking to them about what's on offer.
Yeah, really good tip. Yeah, you can find out loads from school websites, and definitely you'll probably get, families will probably get in the starter pack like a menu, an example, and they will probably have organised it in July, so you'll get something in July so you can think about it. Just so well. This is why we didn't do Facebook Live
on the websites. There's, my mum's quite often telling me stuff that she's found on the website before I've even known about it.
Some people love a good minute, don't they? I haven't got time.
First port call.
Oh, Sarah, thank you so much. This has been so helpful. Now we'll put the link to your group in, because honestly it's really brilliant. If anyone's watching like later when we put this up on to catch up, there's so many great things, so do go over and join. But if families are worried about fussiness a bit more, how else can they work with you? And I think you've got well, tell us a bit more about what's on offer, because I've seen some great stuff that's available, and how you can help families with sort of fussy eating and more.
Yeah, so you can, obviously there's my free Facebook group, so lots of tips there to get you started. And then if you would like to work with me, then I offer courses, either working one-to-one or a small group. So 2 ways of working with me one-to-one, either my course, which is truly bespoke to you and your needs and your challenges, and runs over several weeks. Or you can just pay for an hour of my time, and it's an hour for you to just take a deep dive into what your current mealtime issues are, and we can explore those and give you my advice and support and put a plan together for you to start making changes. And then my group course is online. Unfortunately, there isn't another term to start until September. But if you want to dip your toes in the water as well, then I'll have a masterclass video which you can access through my website. I will be running a live masterclass at some point soon, but I haven't put a date in the calendar yet. But that masterclass is available anytime through my website as well, just to give you some more tips and to get you started. So yeah, several ways to work with me.
Yeah. Well, we'll get some links. We'll get a link to your group, and then a link to the masterclass would be amazing. And even though you're not running another one till sort of September time, that could be that could be great for some families. So make sure you tell us, and we'll pop it in, because I think that would be so helpful. Thank you so much for your time. You're going to say bye in a minute. You have shared so many really, really helpful things, and I've got a child who's in reception now, and those things will be great. So it's for starting school, but actually it's for all sorts of ages, isn't it? So, not the hat. Thank you so much. I so appreciate your time. I've got loads of ideas to go away with, think about now. So thank you so much. Is there anything else you wanted to tell us about before we go? I feel like we've covered loads.
I think we've talked about so much. I mean, the only other thing off the top of my head is getting them used to cutlery. So transferring now, if you're still using plastic, moving over to metal ones, and yeah, supporting them to be able to use the knife and fork independently, because there isn't that one-to-one support. You know, there are staff on call in the hall, but you know, it's not enough. So to try and get them used to that now, especially the really young ones. You know, my daughter's going to be she's August born, so she's, you know, given her extra support now so that she can do those things independently. And I think it just generally for school, isn't it? It's about giving them the skills to be independent in the classroom and in the halls. So.
That's what we talk about loads in this group and on School Ready with Teddy. Yeah, absolutely. I did a post a while ago about using cutlery with play. So if you've got Play-Doh or you've got sand, like adding a bit of cutlery into that play environment is so great, because like a bit like you were talking about the sort of not having that pressure to eat, you're then having a go with the cutlery without the need to actually do something with it. You're just exploring it and having a go. So that is really useful. Sarah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We really appreciated your time. You're going to wave. Bye. Thank you so much.
Helicopter.